You answered the call at 11 p.m. You drove them to the hospital. You gave them money when they were broke. You stayed up listening to their problems for hours while your own life quietly fell apart. And here's the part nobody talks about. You started to feel nothing. Not anger, not resentment, nothing. Like someone slowly turned down the volume on your emotions until all you could hear was static. If that sounds familiar, I need you to stop scrolling. Stop whatever you're doing, because what I'm about to tell you is something you've probably never had a name for. You are not selfish. You are not broken. You are not a bad person. You are experiencing one of the most psychologically damaging and least talked about conditions that exists. And it doesn't just affect therapists or nurses or social workers. It affects the friend who always picks up the phone, the sibling everyone dumps their problems on, the partner who holds everyone together, the person in the group chat who fixes everything. It might be affecting you right now. Today, we're going to go deep. We're going to talk about the psychology of people who are exhausted from helping, why it happens, what it does to your brain, your body, your relationships, and what the road out actually looks like. Stay with me. This video might be the thing you didn't know you needed.
Let's start with the science, because once you understand what's actually happening inside you, it changes everything. There's a term in psychology called compassion fatigue. It was first identified in the 1990s by a nurse named Joynson, who noticed something strange happening to nurses in emergency wards. They came into the job bursting with empathy. They cared deeply. They gave everything. And then they didn't. Not because they were bad people, but because their emotional reserves had been drained to zero, and their nervous system had started protecting them the only way it knew how. It shut empathy down. Now, here's what's important. Compassion fatigue is not the same as burnout. Burnout is work stress. It's being overwhelmed by tasks and responsibilities. You feel exhausted and cynical, but you still feel things.
Compassion fatigue is different. It's what happens when the very act of caring becomes the source of your trauma. Think about that for a second. The thing that makes you a good person, your capacity to feel, to empathize, to connect, becomes a wound. Here's the mechanism. When you witness someone else's suffering, when you truly sit with their pain, your brain doesn't fully distinguish between their experience and yours. The same neural pathways that fire when you are in pain fire when you watch someone you love in pain. This is called secondary traumatic stress. Your brain and body go through a stress response. Cortisol spikes, nervous system activates, not because something bad is happening to you, but because something bad is happening to someone you care about. Now imagine doing that for years. Imagine absorbing the stress of your anxious mother, your struggling friend, your unstable partner, your overwhelmed coworker, day after day, year after year. Your nervous system doesn't know the difference between helping and surviving. It starts treating every call for help like a threat. And eventually, the system overloads.
The emotions start to flatline. You feel numb. You feel disconnected. You find yourself staring at a text message from someone who needs you, and instead of feeling the urge to help, you feel nothing. Or worse, a quiet, shameful irritation. This is not a character flaw. This is your brain doing exactly what it was designed to do, protecting you from what it perceives as a never-ending emergency.
Now, let me ask you something. How did you become the person people call? Because here's the thing. People don't just randomly become helpers. There's a psychology to it. There's a history to it. And understanding that history
is the first step to changing it. Type 1. The parentified child. A significant number of chronic helpers grew up in households where, as children, they had to take care of an adult. Maybe your parents struggled with mental illness, addiction, or emotional instability. Maybe you had to manage their moods, comfort them, walk on eggshells around them. You learned very early that the way to stay safe, the way to be loved, was to be useful. Helping wasn't a choice, it was a survival strategy. And here's the cruel part. That strategy worked. It kept the peace. It got you approval. It made you feel a sense of control in a chaotic environment.
So your nervous system filed it away as, this is how I stay safe in relationships. And decades later, you're still running that same program. Type 2. The empath who was never taught boundaries. Some people are simply wired for high empathy. They feel things more intensely. They pick up on emotions in a room before a word is spoken. This is a gift, a genuine, profound gift. But if nobody ever taught you that you are allowed to not absorb every emotion around you, if nobody modeled what it looks like to care for someone without losing yourself, you grew up thinking that helping meant dissolving, that love meant self-erasure. Type 3. The person whose identity is built on being needed. For some helpers, the act of helping isn't just kind. It's the foundation of their self-worth. I am valuable because I am useful. I am lovable because I am needed. When they're not helping, they don't know who they are. So they seek out people who need them. They attract them almost magnetically because their energy says, I will carry your weight. This isn't weakness. It's often a trauma response dressed up as generosity. The question isn't, are these people good? The answer is overwhelmingly yes. These are some of the most extraordinary, warm, capable humans on Earth. The question is, at what cost?
Let's get really honest here, because I think this is the part most videos gloss over. Chronic overhelping doesn't just make you tired, it rewires you. And the damage shows up in ways you might not even connect to helping at all. It makes you physically sick. The research on this is not subtle. Chronic stress, and remember, your body treats constant helping as stress, suppresses the immune system, raises inflammation markers, disrupts sleep architecture, and elevates cortisol to levels that damage the hippocampus over time. People with compassion fatigue report more frequent illness, more chronic pain, more digestive issues. The body keeps the score, as the saying goes. It kills your relationships. Here's one of the most painful ironies of helper fatigue. The very thing designed to connect you to people starts disconnecting you from them. When you're emotionally depleted, you start withdrawing. You cancel plans, you stop picking up the phone, not just for the people who drain you, but for everyone. You start to see relationships as transactions. What will this person need from me? The joy and intimacy that relationships should carry, it gets buried under the weight of obligation. It breeds secret resentment.
This is the one people feel most ashamed about. You help someone, they don't thank you the way you hoped, or they come back needing more, or they don't seem to be getting better despite everything you've given. And slowly, quietly, a resentment builds. You don't talk about it, you feel too guilty, but it's there. And it poisons things. Not because you're a resentful person by nature, but because resentment is what happens when we give without acknowledgement, without reciprocity, and without boundaries for too long. It is an emotional bill that eventually comes due. It makes you lose yourself. This might be the deepest damage of all.
After years of orienting your life around other people's needs, their crises, their moods, their growth, you can wake up one day and genuinely not know what you want. Not because you don't have desires, but because you've spent so long suppressing them in service of everyone else that they've gone quiet. You'll be asked, "What do you want?" And you'll feel a strange blankness, like the question is being asked in a language you once knew but forgot. That blankness, that disconnection from your own inner world, is one of the saddest consequences of long-term overhelping.
How do you know if you've crossed the line? How do you know if you're just having a hard week or if something deeper is happening? I want to give you a list, not as a diagnostic tool. I'm not a therapist, and this is not therapy, but as a mirror. 1. You feel dread when your phone rings. Not mild annoyance, genuine dread, because you already know it's going to be someone who needs something. 2. You've started lying about your availability. You tell people you're busy when you're not. You text back hours later, even though you saw the message immediately, because you need to protect something, even a tiny pocket of space for yourself. 3. You feel more comfortable being the helper than being helped. When someone tries to take care of you, when someone asks how you're doing and actually means it, you deflect, you minimize, you change the subject back to them. Because being helped feels dangerous, vulnerable, wrong. 4. You fantasize about disappearing. Not in a dark way, necessarily, but you catch yourself daydreaming about moving to a new city where nobody knows you, taking a trip alone, starting over somewhere quiet. This is your psyche telling you it is starving for solitude and selfhood. 5. Your empathy has become mechanical. You say the right things, you do the right things, but inside, you feel like you're performing care rather than feeling it. You nod, you listen, you offer advice, but there's a glass wall between you and the emotion. 6. You have started to feel contempt for vulnerability. This is the one that shocks people most when they recognize it in themselves. You once had infinite patience for people in pain. Now, when someone starts crying or venting, you feel a flash of irritation, maybe even contempt before you catch yourself. This is not who you are. This is your nervous system in full protective mode, treating emotional need as a threat. If you recognized yourself in any of these, please stay with me, because the next part is the one that matters most.
I want to be honest with you about something. There's a version of this video that ends with, set better boundaries, practice self-care, say no more often. And yes, that matters. But I think you've heard those words so many times they've lost all their texture. So let me try to say something more real. Step 1, grief first, strategies second. Before you change your behavior, before you set a single boundary, you need to grieve. Grieve the years you spent running on empty and calling it love. Grieve the relationships where you gave everything and got very little back. Grieve the version of yourself that believed the only way to be worthy was to be useful. This is not wallowing. This is not weakness. Grief is how the nervous system processes what happened to it. If you skip it and go straight to fixing, the old patterns will come back because the root is still there. Step 2. Understand that your helping has been partly about you. This is hard to hear, so I'm going to say it gently. A lot of our helping, even the genuine, beautiful kind, has an element of self-protection in it. When we help, we feel in control.
We feel needed. We feel safe. When we don't help, when we let someone struggle, we feel the terror of not being enough, of not being loved, of being abandoned. The helping has been solving an emotional equation for us as much as it's been serving others. And until we can sit with that discomfort, until we can let people struggle without jumping in to fix it, we will keep overgiving from that same wounded place. Step 3. Rebuild the relationship with yourself. This sounds abstract. Let me make it concrete. What do you find genuinely interesting? Not interesting because it helps someone else. Interesting because it feeds you. When was the last time you spent an afternoon doing something purely because it delighted you? When was the last time you sat with your own feelings, not someone else's, and gave them your full attention? Recovery from helper fatigue is fundamentally about turning the care you've given everyone else inward. Not permanently, not selfishly, but as a practice.
Step 4. Learn to tolerate being seen as disappointing. Here's the wall that stops most recovering helpers. The moment you start saying no, the moment you start showing up for yourself, someone is going to be disappointed in you. Maybe upset with you, maybe they'll pull away, maybe they'll say you've changed. And everything in your nervous system will scream, fix this, apologize, go back to how you were. The work, the real work, is to feel that discomfort and not run from it. To let someone be disappointed in you and survive it. Because you will survive it. And on the other side of that moment is something most chronic helpers have never experienced. A relationship where they are known as a full, complex human being, not just a function.
Step 5. Choose interdependence over sacrifice. The goal is not to stop caring. Please hear that. The goal is not to become cold or distant or guarded. The goal is to move from sacrifice, where you disappear into other people's needs, to interdependence, where you care deeply, give genuinely, and also receive, rest, and remain yourself. Interdependence means I am here for you, and I am also here for me. It means I can hold your pain without drowning in it. It means I can love you without losing myself. This is not a diminished form of love. It is actually a more mature, more sustainable, more real form of love. Because you can't pour from empty forever. And the people who truly love you, they don't want what you give them to be slowly killing you.
Here's the last thing I want to say. When you start this process, when you start reclaiming yourself, it's going to feel wrong. Saying no is going to feel selfish. Choosing yourself is going to feel cruel. Taking a day just for you is going to feel indulgent in a way that almost makes you sick. That feeling is not your conscience speaking. That is the conditioning speaking, the old survival wiring. The voice that learned long ago that your value is measured by your usefulness. That voice is not telling the truth. The truth is, you matter, not because of what you do for others. You matter because you exist. Full stop. Your feelings deserve attention. Your needs deserve consideration. Your exhaustion is real, and it is speaking to you. And if you've spent years pouring light into everyone else's darkness, maybe it's time to ask, when was the last time someone lit a candle for you? And more importantly, when was the last time you let them? Start there. You don't have to fix everything today. You don't have to change everything overnight. Just start there. If this video hit something in you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Not because they need to be fixed, but because sometimes knowing you're not alone is the first thing that makes the weight bearable.
Drop a comment below. What's one thing you've sacrificed for someone else that you wish you hadn't? I read every single one. And if you're new here, subscribe, because this channel exists for the people who are always taking care of everyone else. It's time someone took care of you. I'll see you in the next one.